right, guys. So, another great question for this month's Q&A was, what is a body fat set point? Can you get below it? And if you can get below it, can you maintain it? Is it fantasy that we can get really, really lean and maintain that and just walk around shredded all the time? Or is there some truth to that? And how does that work? So, first, as I always like to do, let's all get on the same page, okay? So we've got set point. What we're talking about is a body fat set point. And the idea is that essentially we function like a thermostat, okay? So if we get overly fat and we're overeating, our body tries to burn more calories. So to try to have us not go outside of the range that it wants us to stay in, just like a thermostat as far as body fat percentage. And then if we get really lean and start losing a lot of weight and eat a lot less, it will do things to try to burn less calories or make us consume more calories so that we gain weight and get back to the calorie level in the body fat range that it wants. Okay? The two major interacting things here are energy balance and then also body fat mass. And either one of them can upset this thermostat. And when combined, they can have additive effects. Okay? Meaning that there is a difference between you at 5% body fat eating 5,000 calories and you at 15% body fat eating 5,000 calories and you at 5% body fat eating 2,000 calories and you at 15% body fat eating 2,000 calories and everywhere in between on both sets of those scales. Okay? So, to answer the first part of the question, yes, you can get below your body fat set point. And the body fat set point range for most people is probably somewhere between, for men, 7 to 15%, and for women, probably add about 10 to 12% body fat to that. Okay? And a really good distinction is this a set point or a settling point? Because if you were to look at modern society, we have gotten much fatter over the past 50 years. Is it that all our set points are just going up? Is our thermostat's broken? No, it's that we have biology and environment, okay? And the environment affects biology affects environment, and I include psychology on this side of it because basically our behaviors, our society, the abundance of food, the ease of getting places without moving, the fact that we don't have to hunt for our food, all of these things make it easier and easier to surpass our set point and harder to get below it, okay? And you could probably look at back to the Ice Age, and you probably have a lot of people who are very well below their set point, and they can maintain it quite well, and mainly because they can't find any food, right? So obviously it's not just about biology being a hardline rule. What's around you, what's available, and your society, your family, your beliefs, the way you deal with stress, all these things are going to come together to kind of create what's called a settling point, which is going to be where you tend to hang out if you just kind of do your thing in terms of body fat percentage. Now, another good question is this an exact figure or is this a graded range? And it's definitely a graded range. Pretty much everything in the body is not an on and off switch. We hang out in various shades of gray all the way to black and all the way back to white. So it's certainly harder for a contest prep bodybuilder in prep to be at 5% versus 8%, but 8% certainly feels worse than 15%, right? That's basically what I'm saying. And it's not like, oh, I hit 10.5%, now it's all downhill. It's not a specific point. The longer you diet, the harder you diet, the leaner you get, the harder it gets, right? The more that thermostat tries to kick back, okay? So, so the amount of difficulty you have to get below your set point is more of just kind of this graded range. It's like you get through deeper and deeper mud the longer you diet and the leaner you get. And it gets harder and harder as you have to get leaner, and then you typically will increase cardio or drop calories and further, and that makes it even compounded, okay? So it's really more of a graded range, and in the end what you have is basically a functional set point range, okay? And when I say functional, this is very specific to the person. If that is a bodybuilder, what's functional means fulfilling their function as a bodybuilder. So they want to be as lean as possible while still being able to make size gains in the off season, stay sane and keep a balanced life, while still being as lean as possible so they can get ready for a show easier, While for a strength athlete, for example, functional would be what gives me the best pound-for-pound strength. And that's not always 5% body fat. Some people may find they can recover better, train better, and they get better leverages and more motivation, and they're happier in general, and they are much better in the 198s than versus the 165s. For example, Bryce Lewis, when he first started, got on stage at about in the 160s, pretty damn lean. And then we started having him compete in the 181s. He obviously felt better at 181 versus 165 or whatever he was. And now he just did a meet where he actually dropped from over 200 down to 198. So he's much heavier than I want him as a bodybuilder, but his Wilks score is actually slightly better than it was at 178 when he competed last time. So I'm finding, we could hang out and maintain strength in the 181s, but if we want to push up to the next competitive level, maybe we need to train in the 198s and the 200 range and then come down from there. So functional is a different meaning for each person. Functional, if you're not a competitive powerlifter or bodybuilder or strength athlete in general, is not going to be related to your strength or your competition status as a bodybuilder. More so, when do you like what you see in the mirror and you can live with that and still maintain it? And way too many of you guys try to maintain something unrealistic, which I think is the crux of this question. Okay? You have to listen to your body on this, and I mean that in the sense that you can diet down to 5%, but you won't maintain it. There's a reason why I'm not 5% right now talking to you. I think even the bodybuilders with the lowest functional set point range can walk around maybe at 7%. Alberto has said that once he gets to 40, 45, and he's put on most of the muscle he has, he might walk around 6, 7 pounds over stage weight, but it's still not stage weight for him. And there's been a lot of people over the years who've tried to figure out a way to get to this as low as possible kind of walk-around weight. Martin Birkin, his motivation for intermittent fasting was, I want to be able to walk around lean. He's been a model for a long time, and he basically is modifying this, the behavior, making it easier for people to get around some of the parts of society that make it harder for us to function at the low end of our set point range. Altering meal scheduling and timing and trying to utilize some of the effects of fasting to try to do that. And it works for the people it works for. So, but not everybody walks around as lean as Martin. Some guys walk around at 12% and they're happy, some guys at 8. So it's going to be a different number for everybody. Now, I'll tell you what I have the most experience with is helping bodybuilders find this, and non-bodybuilders as well. But typically the way it's done is you diet down, not to 3% body fat or 5% unless you're a bodybuilder, but to a point where you can get there with only a minimal or a moderate amount of suffering, okay? Because you push it too far, then when you try to reverse diet, you just go off the rails and then you get fatter than you started. So you get lean, but not too lean, and then you reverse diet, you come back up, slowly adding in calories, slowly backing off the cardio, and you're very much watching your body composition and your weight so that it only slowly goes up, or doesn't go up, and you add as much food in as you can until you get this feeling normal again. Hunger levels come back down, you wake up aware that your libido is functional, if you know what I mean, men, with the tent, yeah, okay? And you're happy, you're well adjusted, you've dropped some of those OCD food behaviors, and you're like, hey, I'm leaner than when I started, I'm happy when I look in the mirror, and I can just kind of eat a large amount of macros, not do cardio all the time, and I can maintain this. For some people, like I said, that might be 7%, and for others it might be 15%. But whatever it is for you, once you find it and you get there, you need to kind of accept it. You might be able to modify that over time as you kind of affect this side of it. But even if you were like a master of willpower and lifestyle change, eventually maybe you can walk around at the very, very low end of your functional set point range. But then the question is can I make gains? Okay? Because the range at which you can maintain leanness and be happy and functional and all that may be lower if you're really a stud about this stuff than what is optimal for you to put on muscle mass and make progress from season to season. Okay? So keep that in mind. That's the odd person who I run into who can maintain leaner than what is acceptable for them to make good gains in the off season, but it does happen. Those folks who have the behaviors that have them under-eating and also a low body fat set point who want to compete in bodybuilding can sometimes be like, look man, you need to eat more, you need to get over 10% body fat. And yeah, it's a problem I wish we all had, right? But that's pretty much it. You can get below your set point. your set point is not a specific spot, and it's affected by both body fat percentage and the amount of calories you're eating, and the basically energy balance, caloric expenditure versus intake. And finding it is going to be a process of dieting down and building back up and being pretty in control during that period and not having just a bunch of binges. And you know, this is something I try to do with almost all of my competitors, and the vast majority of them, if you do it right, can stick to the guns and have a limited number of oopsies along the way. And it's a well-rewarded process. And just be aware that you don't get to just be lean and walk around shredded all the time, regardless of these things. You have to figure out what is your functional set point range. Okay? All right, guys, that's it for this month. I hope we have some really good Q&A questions for next month as well, and talk to you guys then.